3, 2.
I got everybody pregnant with Barry Katz's semen.
I'm not comfortable with the tone this is taking.
If you're undeniable, you will not be denied.
If you want to be successful in show business, you get yourself a Jew white manager like Barry Katz.
Being a manager is just turning no's into yeses.
Creating holy shit moments. Undeniable.
You're fucking firing me up, Katz.
I love this man.
Is there anything else I should know?
You're on. What? I'm on the air.
Barry Katz.
Back in the house.
Let's do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one of the youngest guests I've ever had on a podcast,
in a hotel
Troy
room.
Bond.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mr. Katz. I've looked
Thank
up to
you.
you for years. This is like
I'm shrinking.
I am too. I'm getting down. I've been listening to your podcast since I started in stand-up because I was huge fans of many of the people that you repped, and we have a lot of mutual friends. And then I hear about this thing called industry standard, which when you're a young comic, you read all these books and you have all this knowledge being thrown at you. But your podcast was the only one that I would be able to pick up little tidbits on. And over time, I feel like 90% of my comedy knowledge has come from just quotes from you. Like one of the ones that's always in my head is your audience is your writing partner, which I think you highlighted a couple of weeks ago. But so much of that and what you said is in my DNA as a comic. It's in my codex.
That really means a lot to me.
It truly is. I mean, like Burr and Chappelle were two comics that I looked up to for years and still do. And we have a mutual friend, Chris Murphy.
Of course.
Who, at a young age, was always sort of looking out for me and mentoring me. And,
Love that guy.
Yeah, me too. And you've just always been chirping in the back of my head.
You know, that's all I ever want. It's all I ever wanted from this podcast. Is what you are saying to me. It's just so odd because it's like when I first wanted to do the podcast, people always said to me like, "Don't do it. You can't do that. You're a manager, you're a producer. You don't do that. Nobody does that. Do not do that." And it just fueled me to do it more because I wanted to make an impact on all kinds of people in the business, to be able to show them the behind the scenes and what to do and what not to do, so that they wouldn't make the mistakes that other people make or that they learned about things. And so all those people telling me not to do it, and they said it would hurt me in a lot of ways. And truth be told, the first time I'm saying this podcast has hurt me in a lot of ways. It can't not hurt you because you're pulling back the curtain on a lot of stories and a lot of things that happen, and people aren't always happy when you tell the truth through your lenses. And just like I'm going to do with you today.
No, I love it. It's from a certain point of view. That's what Obi-Wan said. And looking at you is like looking at Obi-Wan.
Well,
and I've told you that before. But all the truths we hold are from a certain point of view. So like what I was going to ask, why do you think people were saying not to do it? And you're saying it's because you're telling stories from a certain perspective, or you're giving away secrets, or you're not gatekeeping. And you say, yeah. I don't want to gatekeep. I want to be as transparent as possible.
But also there's the thing that you have to represent a certain type of artist when you're managing, who accepts the fact that I want to make a difference. You know, I do this thing called the Blueprint. I have like 500 people in there, and every Monday I do a Zoom call, you know, for an hour or an hour and a half. Now, I don't think there's a lot of comics, insert name here, that they'd call me up and say, hey, listen, what's happening? Oh, I just had this great call for an hour with these people who are young artists trying to whatever. Well, what are you doing for me today? Like, that hour you could have been calling the studios. You could have been doing whatever. Another artist might say, hey, what's happening? Oh, a lot of things. I just interviewed Ted Sarandos, president of Netflix. Oh, did you mention me? Did you get a special for me? Did you you gonna get him on my podcast?
Yeah.
So if you represent artists that are like really don't understand that your purpose in life isn't just to be Colonel Tom Parker.
Right. Yeah.
Your purpose in life is to be great for them and do a great job for them, but in your spare time to be able to do things that help our world and our entertainment world. And that's the people that I want to work with and I want to represent, who are accepting of that. But it's hard because, most people, they don't believe that if you're doing that, then you're spending all your time, helping them. But I always believe that at this stage of the game, 5 minutes of my time is worth 5 hours of somebody else's time. So I'm not worried about making a movie happen or doing a television show or getting a guy a special. I've done like 40 of them.
Yeah.
So I never worry about making my mark on anybody. So that way I do what I do. And the second thing I want to tell you is that when you're on stage, everything stops. You no problems, no nothing. You get off stage, and then there's the
right.
For me, when I'm talking to you at 1 a.m. at the Comedy Cellar at the Olive Tree and about your life and your career, or I'm on those calls on Monday, or I'm talking to an artist that I manage about his special. I just did Brad Williams' special in New York, and it was an amazing thing in Times Square. And to put a special together, it's like a wedding. There's so many things to work on to make work. And my favorite line that I always have is, way back from the Jay Moore days, is "Don't spook the thoroughbred." Don't, when you're working on a project with somebody, don't get in the stall and yell boo. Keep everything away from them and let them concentrate on their art form.
Yeah, it's sort of your job to take the knives and everything else that's killing you up. So now I understand where the equivalence is of like stage time. Everything's quiet. This is the time you enjoy doing that, because what you're doing right now is your equivalent to being on stage for 5 minutes. The Brad stuff, like putting together the special, that's probably hell on you when you're not talking to him or you're talking to another artist, when you're just doing the ones and zeros manager stuff, like the nitty gritty.
It's not hell, because what it is I'll give you the equivalent of it.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady, he's the GOAT. We watch him, he's the GOAT. Out of 100% pie of all the time that he's working on football, we see him 1% of that time. All the rest, he's putting the work in to make sure that he is the GOAT, to make sure that he goes on that field and he performs to the best of his ability.
Right.
For me, when I'm working as a manager, I'm doing all the things behind the scenes that nobody sees really in the real world. And then when the special comes on, they see the special, and that's the work that I collaborate with the artist. It's my talent behind the scenes and their talent on screen that makes it all happen, and that's what it's all about. And I want to say to the audience that this is a very unique day for me, because you know this, but I was at the Cellar and I met you, and then I went to see Dave Attell, and I've known him my whole life. He used to host the open mic nights at the Boston. I spent more time with him. I didn't manage him. I spent more time with him probably than a lot of the management clients back then. And there's something about him that always makes me laugh. I understand that every comic, people have a different taste, and I just walked down there. I'm sitting in that bench seat that they pull out for me all the time, this hidden bench seat in the back of the original Comedy Cellar. And he goes on and he does something very generous. He he brings Ian on, and then he gets the other host involved as well. But Ian Fidance, did I pronounce that properly?
Yeah, Fidance.
And Ian walks on stage with him, and for those of you who don't know Ian, you know, he's got tattoos all over his body. He's wearing these shorts that don't fit. He's wearing a tank top that he's got like a dad bod, but I don't know if he's a dad. He's got a smile that looks kind of like the, you know, the part Joker and part the clown from It or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. And, you know, and he just walks on stage, and the first thing Dave Attell says, "Hey, Ian, how you doing? How's the day job as a rodeo clown?" And, you know, it's just, I just can't, I just drop to my knees. And because I think to myself, like, I don't know why there's things about phrases in comedy. And the phrases in comedy, there's something about the phrase rodeo clown.
Rodeo clown. And it's the delivery, too. Like, I can hear Attell saying that at like 1:30 in the morning.
And so you can't, I just can't not laugh. And I know, and, you know, and some people write jokes and they put things together and they try them out and they don't work. And they're like, how is this possible? It doesn't work. And anyway, so after the show, he goes outside and he talks to me. And he says, Barry, you know, you gotta interview some of the young guys. You know, you got to start, you know, you just interviewing people who've been doing it, whatever, but there's a bunch of new people that are doing things that are special, and you have to do it. And I, when he said that to me, I thought of you. You're the first person I thought of, and I don't, you know.
Take that, Matt Rife. No, he's a great guy. I don't know.
I remember Gary Abdow introduced me to him when he was 17 or 18, wanted me to represent him when he was 17 or 18. But
thank you, Attell, for saying Barry should reach back to the young guys.
Yeah.
Also, that's one of the reasons why Attell is so great, because there's so many comics now who are trying to figure out the social media thing. It's like when they all kind of made fun of Dane Cook for building out a website and having a MySpace. And then like 3-4 years later, they were like, "Hey man, can you show me how to build a website and make a MySpace?" It looks like the business is going in that direction. Then there were all these comics who were like, "That's not the way to do it. You do it this way. You go in the clubs and you're miserable for years. And why would you ever try to find a way to network and put all your fans into one spot?" Now that social media has become such a thing, where there's a comedy explosion happening right now, in a way that some would argue killed comedy in the 90s with the interest in comedians leading to more clubs being open, leading to more clubs shutting down. Now you're not seeing that as much because of social media and the almighty algorithm that caters to you. Like, you can when you go on your TikTok, you can see 50 different comedians. It's like a music playlist, right? You don't listen to just one artist. There's a bunch, and it's so accessible to people now in a way that you can't do stand-up without the social media, or do anything professionally without the social media. And Attell is one of those guys. I think it might be a New York thing too, like sort of always keeping your ear to the ground and seeing what's going to be next. And he's at the Cellar, and he's one of the greats, and he must see the influx of young guys that are coming through, probably more than ever. Younger stand-ups who are getting into it and getting past and getting through, and they're on the same shows as he is. And I think that's what makes him such a great comic, is performing is listening. And it's not just to the audience. A lot of the time it's listening to what the cultural zeitgeist is right now. Where's the line? Where are people finding out about you? How does that translate into ticket sales? And shout out Dave Attell. We've never met, but I used to watch you I still watch you. But years of working at the Pear or at Greenwich Village Comedy Club, I would just watch Dave chain smoke outside and then go into clubs. And it was like looking at Batman. Like, I was like, there he is. That's Attell. It's the Dave. It's just cool that he's like, because it's so easy to fall into the thing of being like, man, this younger generation doesn't know what they're doing. And the fact that he's like, Barry, you got to spotlight some of these younger dudes. That's so cool.
You've never met him.
Never met him.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
You don't go up to him and say hello?
You met him? Yeah, no, I should. I should. I turn into such a little kid when I meet comics. Like I've like Judy just now in the elevator. I became like 3 years old. I've been
Judy Gold.
Judy Gold. I just met her at the elevator. I've never met her before, and I was like, "Hi, Judy. Great to meet you. It's really great to meet you. Great. I think I just because like I've been a huge fan forever. I've known Jess Curson for so many years. She was the first person I opened for. I just saw her in the hotel room, or I saw her downstairs in the lobby, and again, I was a little kid. Like I was like, "Hi, Jess. Great to see you. Oh my God, hi. Is it great. And I've had so many conversations with her. But Attell is next time I see him, I'm gonna walk up to him and be like, "Barry Katz sent me," and just walk away.
Do you visualize the moment in your career when somebody's gonna come up to you like a little kid?
It's weird that it's happened a few times. And the messages that people send on social media are so heartfelt. There's a guy who sent me a message a couple of weeks ago. He sent me an email that my manager forwarded to me, and it made me cry. So he was a combat vet, and he sustained a brain injury that affected him, his speech patterns. And he decided to he wanted to take a comedy class so we could relearn how to speak. And public speaking, as you know, it's the number one fear. So we had to sort of relearn how to speak again. And he was he sent me an email talking about how he was looking up comedians online, and he found my stuff, and he made me cry just because he was like watching you and watching crowd work and just thinking on your feet and speaking so clearly had a huge impact on my recovery. And that's coming from a guy who was a sergeant in the military, got a combat injury, a brain injury. I will bomb one night and not leave my house for 3 days. Right? Like he's literally dropping bombs on people or stopping bombs from being dropped on someone else. And then he's like, "Man, you're a stand-up. I could never do what you do." I'm like, "Dude, I can't do what you do. That's why I do what I do." So it's probably Attell gets it all the time. So many comics just walking up to him, and I've seen him talk to younger comics and really take the time out to be like, "This is what you got to do, XYZ." So when it happens to me, not that it happens at the level he does, but when it happens to me, it's sort of the only time I'll give myself a pat on the back, because that's the love that you get back that you're trying to put out there into the world. Comedy's sort of on one thing where like people can put their money down and guarantee that they're gonna feel a little bit better with an involuntary reaction that creates all these chemicals in your brain. So when you put that out there and you get it back, it means something. Sometimes it means more than a laugh. Sometimes it feels better than killing in front of 1,300 people.
I texted you after I met you. I texted you.
It meant a lot to me.
Do you remember what I said to you?
I was at like 5 a.m, I want to say, and I woke up to it, and I thought I was having a fever dream. And I like put my phone back down, and then I woke up and I reread it again, and I was like, "Wow, Barry really does. He is the guy you think he is. He has the heart he does." He was like, "It was great to meet you. I think you're one of the greats, and I'm truly concerned about you, Troy." So a combination of those three things meant a lot. All of them warranted.
Why do you think I was concerned about you?
That's a great question.
Did you think about it?
Yeah. I couldn't tell if it was because...
It's multi-layered.
Yeah, I figured. I'm going to guess what I think some of the layers are. Number one, it was 4 a.m, I think we met. 1 a.m, some early time in the morning, or late at night. And I was with Ryan Reese. We were coming from doing a show in Long Beach. Worried. I was trying to think, like, did he have the general worry that he does for most young comics that he sees? Because the other stuff was great. I didn't think twice about the nice things you said, but the worry was in my head forever. Probably because there's a lot of moving parts toward the career, and you've probably seen a lot of rises and falls of people who get overwhelmed and then stop, and then there's nothing. What's that line in Bronx Tale? The saddest thing in the world is wasted potential. So I think that was your way of sort of being like, "Hey, slow down for a second there, bud. It's gonna be okay." But that did mean a lot to me when you said that. What did you mean by worry? Could I ask?
Yes, there's a bunch.
Let's get naked. Let's get vulnerable. I feel like I'm in therapy now. This is great. I'm so relaxed.
There's a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Number one,
I was hammered too, by the way. I should not hammered, but we were drinking.
well, let's start with that.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's my lens.
Yeah.
I'm one person.
Right.
So just take it with the
No, I
spirits
love it.
intended.
Yeah.
This is my thoughts, my process. I don't think anybody who's in the line should do anything to where somebody can pass them in line.
Oh, I see what you mean. At first I was like, I wasn't on coke. And I see what you mean. You're
So-
saying, yeah, right.
I think Jay Leno was the person who said this to me. He said, we're all in a line. You as a comic are in a line. It's a long fucking line. When you started, in high school, starting to go out and doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
there was a long line.
Right.
You were at the end of the line.
Right.
But you moved up in the line. How do you move up in the line? You move up in the line by working harder and smarter than everybody else. And somebody, is an asshole to somebody posts something that's offensive, somebody is on drugs and they decide to take a month off, somebody has depression and they decide that they don't want to take their medication that day, and you move up in line to get to where you are. And when you move up in line, somebody's out of the line. Let's just look at the Comedy Cellar, okay? Before you got into the Comedy Cellar to do stand-up there, for your very first spot there, if you were to look at the lineups of all the comedians that went on for the past year and you were to put an alphabetical list together, okay, there'd be a list, and that would be the line.
Yeah.
And then if you did the algorithm and somebody did it for you or whatever that showed, okay, who did the most spots all the way down? Let's say there were 100 comics. So there's somebody did the most spots and somebody did the least spots. Now you enter the line.
Right.
What happens?
Someone else gets bumped out of the line.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay? So, in my humble opinion, you don't hang out at Jerusalem of comedy clubs not in your right mind. You have to be always at a place where you are at the best representation of yourself. Now, you might say, hey, there's other people are fucked up there. What are you talking about? I can do, we can have fun, whatever. There's a bar, we do whatever. But if you're there and somebody else isn't, and they're at the top of their game, they can work an angle. They can talk to somebody. They can do, while you're off, not at your best, somebody else is at their best.
Right.
And then they can pass you in that line. And now you got to figure out how to get. And you might say, okay, that's an isolated incident, Barry. It's just something that happened. I came from a gig. I was happy. I'm celebrating. I'm doing whatever. Celebrate your happiness away from the workplace.
That's a great piece of advice. True.
Because that was the first thing I was worried about. Because if I said to myself, if he's doing this now, well, then what's going to happen a year from now? And what that means is it's a comfortability. It's a feeling like, hey, I'm feeling good. You wouldn't, if I had you meet Steven Spielberg, would you show up to the meeting in the bag? No, you wouldn't.
I'm showing up to the meeting to get the bag.
No, you wouldn't. Why wouldn't you? Why do you go to the greatest comedy club in the history of the world?
Right.
Who blesses you, who anoints you, one of them, and gives you that opportunity to work the same stage as Chappelle, Attell, Burr, and you walk up the stairs and you have a bunch of drinks. It's like to me, it's like, I know this sounds really harsh.
No,
but to me, it's like taking a shit on the table.
Yeah.
It's like that's what it is. It's like, oh my God. Now, how come Chappelle can have a drink there, and how can he whatever? Because he doesn't have to worry anymore. You're in the line here. Mm-hmm. He's here. Attell could fucking put a cigarette out on somebody's lapel, and he's gonna be forgiven.
Right.
Okay? Burr can come in and have an argument with somebody and throw a chair if he wanted to. It's okay. He's already got to the line, the top.
Yeah, he fought all of Philadelphia.
But that's right. But you're starting in the line. Now, I know what you're saying, Bear. I'm not starting in the line. I've moved up in the line. And so that's the first thing I worry about.
Great advice.
I just want to make sure, do you feel like you disagree with that, or is it?
No, I mean, I honestly didn't know we were going to go to the cellar that night. And it was fun because I walked in and I saw all these people that I opened for over the years. And now that, that things have been going well, they've been coming up and we're having conversations. I saw guys like Adam Ferrara and who I opened for at Bananas, and then I got to see him at the cellar, and we were talking, and he's like, real proud of you, bud. And then I'm talking to Adam, and I just see Barry behind Adam, like Slender Man. It was so crazy. Like, I just saw, and I was like, and then when you came over and said hi to me, I was like, okay, thank God, someone else sees him too. But that was, I remember the next day waking up and sort of having the feeling of like, how did I because we went to the Village Underground, that's the one that's around the corner from the original cellar, right? We got there and it was closed. Should have gone home then. I was like, oh, it's 1 a.m. and they're locking up here. I should probably go home. And I was having this conversation with someone yesterday where I feel so lucky to be able to do this for a living, and you forget that it's so much fun when it's great that you forget that it is work. And that you are at work and that you're in an office without it being in an office.
That's the second thing I wanted to talk to you about.
Hey everybody, it's Barry Katz, and I wanted to talk to you about Blueprint for Success. This is a community that I put together during the pandemic to help all artists of every walk of life in the entertainment business. No matter where you are in that part of this journey, it's designed to help you. There are podcasts with people that will inspire you, like Kevin Hart, Judd Apatow, Bill Burr, that you can't find anywhere else but on this program that I've interviewed, to times where we get to talk to executives in the business that you would never have access to tell you what you need to hear and to answer your questions, to all sorts of different videos and master classes designed to help you get to the promised land. That's what the Blueprint for Success is. Doesn't matter whether you want to be a stand-up comedian, a sketch performer, a podcaster, an actor, an actress, director, writer, social media person, whatever you want to be. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've had the honor and been humbled to represent people like Chappelle, Wanda Sykes, Louis C.K., Dane Cook, and probably over 20 other people who went from a studio apartment to being a multi-millionaire and a household name. And I want that for you, and I wanted to take the time with this program to be able to help you on your way there, to get there and to heighten and increase the trajectory of your career. Blueprint for Success is the way to go. I'm proud to be a part of this program, and I'd be proud to have you to be a part of it too.
Is that you're experiencing such amazing success. You've earned it. You've figured it out.
Thank you.
Other people can't figure it out. You're not a brain surgeon. some people are like wildly, you look up to so like with reverence, who can't figure out what you're figuring out. You see people who I know that if you were just be in a soundproof booth, you'd say, holy shit, am I ever going to be as funny as that guy or that girl? And then you look at their numbers and they're not even touring and they're not doing, and you're like, why can't this person figure it out? Like, there's so many comedians like that. So when you do something like that, what happens is, in my humble opinion, and I talk about this in different ways, but I'm going to talk about it this way. I'll use the trapeze reference. So who's a better trapeze artist? A sold out show, triple somersault. They're both, you know, doing the same thing. One performs with a net and one performs without the net.
Who's the better one? I guess the one without the net, because that's a different skill, right?
You are correct, sir. Because
Yeah.
what happens if he doesn't do what he does?
Yeah, your own heart. You know, you just fall
That's
right
right.
down. Yeah.
But what happens, the second thing I'm worried about, you, what you said, the workplace and whatever, is that things are happening to you at a very accelerated rate. Before it was like, I'll post one thing and whatever, then it's a while before the next thing happens. Now you're setting your own records every day. You know, there's another video like on Monday there's something that goes, you know, well, and then you're like, okay. And then on Wednesday there's another thing that beats that, and then on Saturday there's another.
Right.
So things are really accelerated. And you're experiencing something that very few people experience. So when that happens, the net starts forming underneath you. And you feel like you're a little more invincible than you were when you started. And I know you have humility. But sometimes I think through my lens, and I've seen it happen because I've been around.
Yeah.
You know, I've been fortunate, as you know, and I can't quantify in a court of law what it is of why I've been around so many young artists like yourself who started in a studio apartment somewhere and became multimillionaires and household names. But I've been there 25 times. I've seen this happen. And I'm never wrong when it comes to seeing somebody like that. And I say that, which sounds conceited. And I'm not saying it like that because I'm a very humble person. But there's something about that happens in me when I see somebody. And something happens. And I shook your hand. And something happened to me. And I just said, holy shit, this is another one.
Wow. Thank you.
And I've seen what happens along the way. I know what things like curtaining off a venue is. Okay? I know what it's like to see somebody throw a plate of spaghetti against the wall and have it shatter.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to see somebody not show up and calling over and over again, oh, I overslept. I know what it's like to have a person on a set drunk and trying to get through it. I know I've seen people get propped up and put in a place where they could just do their stuff and hopefully they could get the take. I've seen people needing cue cards because they weren't prepared.
Right.
Brilliant people. And so when I see little pieces of instinct and that dead zone thing that happens to me, that I feel like when I met you, I was like really concerned because I felt that you were a person that could go either way.
Right.
And that hurt me and bothered me, because I feel like you're the kind of person who has to do something that probably very few comedians or people would ever advise you to do. And that's every day wake up and pretend that you're shit, and that you gotta figure out a way to better yourself on stage and better the content, because social media is incredible. It's an incredible way to reach the world. Amazing. But your content that comes from your brain to your mouth, that actually has the words and the construction of the premises and the jokes. You know, people might remember a parody of something with Jerry Seinfeld.
Right.
But at the end of the day, as I shared with the Lucas brothers here, I said, it's safe to write a biopic.
Mm-hmm.
It's safer to parody Seinfeld than to go on stage and have a premise that no other comic in the world has.
Right.
And then write jokes to that premise.
Right.
So all the comics upstairs go, that fucking God
Yeah.
damn it. God, he fucking figured out how to do that too, that cocksucker.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. And I feel like that's the other concern, is that you're performing and you're walking through life now, it feels like, with a net. And I'm praying and I'm hoping that you start thinking of your career as performing without the net, so that when you do everything, it's like the most important people are watching me all the time. Now, I know I've said, and you quoted, the audience is your writing partner,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to go on and work out. It's the only profession in the world where you have to work out your stuff in front of the audience.
Yeah.
And so you can't always be your best, but you work out your shit at the shittier clubs. And when you go into, when you're doing that gig in Long Island City or Long Beach or whatever it is, fucking, do whatever. Nobody's seeing that. But when you're at places like the Cellar, it's like off stage, be the best representation of yourself, and on stage, figure out how to, those comics watch you and they're like, Jesus Christ, this fucking guy, God damn it.
Yeah.
He figured that out too.
Yeah. Mind-body connection. And that's what we were just talking about earlier too, with what just comes from brain to mouth. We were talking about the Seinfeld stuff that I did for a while, and you mentioning what's safe versus what's safer. And being here this week, like I could have put out one Seinfeld sketch a week since last year. They've all would have gone viral. I would have made a lot of money. And that would have been fine. But that's not why I got into this business. I watched my parents work their whole lives and never make any money. So I figured if I was going to work and not make any money, I'm going to do something I enjoy doing while I'm doing it. And stand-up ended up being the thing that I found the torture I was comfortable with doing every single day. And the thing that I love about it, and it sort of happens when you either get to a certain level of success on stage or on social media where you could take chances and work out things that, or I'm able to put out ideas or sketches or podcast clips or things that I know are a risk now, but I have an audience that will back it up or give me criticism, and I can pretty much value what they're going to say, whether it's good or bad. I try not to read the comments. I'll just have my manager do it, because otherwise the comments stay in my head for years. I remember every YouTube comment from 2008 to now. But the most important thing I find when it comes to coming up with material, what you're doing on stage, it's easy to get into a feedback loop of performing all night, having that that shitty headspace creep up on you, going to bed, waking up in the middle of the afternoon, going to the show again, just doing that same thing over and over and over again, especially when you get on the road. And the thing that I do to pull myself out of that is I go, you've got, if you want to write material and you want to be a successful comic, you've got to go experience life. You've got to go do life shit. Just like go to a lake, go to a beach, go to a park, go somewhere you haven't been before. And being up here in Montreal this week and seeing so many other comics, it's easy to get intimidated by it, but I get inspired more than anything else just because you get to see everyone who's up here, whether they're in New Faces or whether they're doing an hour-long headliner show. You get to watch them, because most of them I've been fans of for years, evolve that here to here to here point. And some of them I've watched and studied their New Faces. Some of them I've watched do an hour this week. Some are both. And I think it's the mind, body, spirit connection is the most important thing. Do you meditate? You strike me as a guy who meditates. You are very concise with what your thoughts are. And when you say something, you immediately, maybe it's just from working in this all these years, and this is a talky business, but you strike me as, because I meditate. I used to have a really bad cocaine problem for years. I've been off coke for about 3 years. But meditation is what helped me a lot, because I wanted to get into Buddhism. But the meditation aspect, just mindfulness. You're a very mindful person.
People are shocked by this. Never meditated in my life.
Wow. What do you attribute it to then? Your mindfulness.
I think it's like people, again, they don't believe this. I don't even know if I believe it, but every shaman has told me like I've been like I was like a rabbi or a sage in like another lifetime and long ago. So it's like I did this thing I'm going to share with you. Yeah. I don't think I've shared this with anybody on the podcast. Yeah. I did this thing, a consulting client that I had spent $7,000 for me to go to Utah to do something called The Journey. Uh-huh. It was some kind of it wasn't psychedelic thing, but it was a psychotropic drug, whatever it was. And I'm there with these people. They flew in and they gave me a pill. You know, it's like the weirdest thing. You trust people. It's like here, we work for The Journey. Here, take this pill. Okay, all right.
The Journey is Xanax.
And so I take the pill, and then I'm woozy, and then they take me into the room. They give me 2 shots, and then I'm like hallucinating and like whatever it is, and I've got a weighted blanket on myself.
Oh my God.
I've never done this before in my life, and so, and before I did it, they said, "Listen, you may throw up. There's a thing. You may be screaming out things. We want to record things because everybody talks about their life. Everybody talks about their life, and it's about a 2 or 3 hour thing." I wake up 12 hours later, okay? I'm going through 12 hours of footage through the weekend, and I didn't say one word the whole time except one time. In the middle of the thing, I just yelled Hitler. And I took the 2 people aside, and I'm like, look, is there something wrong with me? I heard people screaming, "Mama! Daddy, don't do that to the little doll." Anyway, so don't kill Hitler. The dog, Daddy.
Jesus.
So whatever. So it's like, so I say, what is it like? Why was I not verbal? I had a great time. I slept for 12 hours. They were 2 hours. Like what? They said, "Barry, sometimes people have lived other lives and they just have figured stuff out, and you had nothing to really figure out." So I don't meditate. That was a long way of
you were Hitler in a past life. And that's why they brought you back as Barry Katz.
I'm sorry.
We're like, this is going to get him.
This is going to get him.
That's crazy.
So I just...
Thank you for sharing that.
No problem. I'm going to ask you a couple more things,
Please.
And then I'll ride off in the sunset. I have so many things I want to ask you, but I can't ask you those things because I've taken too much time.
Ask me whatever. Thank you for the advice, by the way.
And just as a side, I'm gonna edit out the take a shit on the table. That was too harsh. So
no, that was you don't have to edit that out. I think that's important for people to hear. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No, okay. I'm giving up condoms and drinking both Barry told me to do.
No, I don't think you should.
That's
give
the
up
industry
condoms.
standard.
What you should do with the condoms though is that you always use your own.
Yes. No, my days of rinsing them out and sharing them with the guy who went on before me are over. I'm like, hey, Adam, catch. Jimmy hat.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's funny. Have you ever done that bit that you just did?
No.
It's funny.
Well,
It's funny. No, the days of. Anyway, so.
This is the best thing I've done all week. Everything else I've had to just sort of sell soap, and this week I've been able to just this right here. I've just been able to sit and talk. I forgot you were even here, Mark. Holy shit!
That means a lot. Marks, don't be mad at me for not asking all these great questions because I gotta get them. I gotta get them out of here. What's your two last questions?
Yeah.
What's the greatest risk you're willing to take in your career?
In general, one that I've taken or one that I'm still
one that you've taken and one that you haven't taken yet.
I think about a lot of the time, like I am living a career based on a dream I had when I was 17, which doesn't feel legal. Like I think back to like I didn't have a great relationship with my dad. Shocker. We have a great relationship now, but like when I was coming up, he would vehemently hate the fact that I was trying to be a comic, as most parents would, I assume. And I just had to, fuck you, Dad. It's called hip hop. You don't understand. But as I got older, I was like, oh, you know what? That was probably the right thing to do as a parent, to come to your 17-year-old kid and be like, hey, man, maybe you shouldn't put your whole rest of your life on this right now when you're 17. So I think the greatest risk I ever took was packing my bags up right out of high school, moving to a city that I didn't really know anybody in, working a 9 to 5 just so I could work from 6 to 8, and doing shows all night, working all day. The greatest risk I feel like you take now, or one that I do every single time, I liken going on stage to skydiving. Where like that moment before your foot touches the stage is like right before you pull the ripcord out from and the parachute goes, where you're just free falling. And every single time before I go on stage, I'm thinking, I don't know how to do this. How did I sell this show out? They are about to be severely disappointed, and I have nightmares where I wake up after getting off stage at 37 minutes and not even doing a meet and greet because I did so badly. So I think that it's a continual risk mindset that you have to put yourself in, because any time that I'm too comfortable doing something, I immediately try to put myself out of my comfort zone, because that's the only way you're going to grow. So like if I'm comfortable with how this hour is working, I'll try to reverse the hour and work it back to front just so I know it really works. But like the risk mindset is something I try to live in, because if I don't take a big risk or a giant leap, I'm never going to know that's what I'm capable of. Like in April, Mitch Hurwitz reached out to me, speaking of Ted Sarandos, and he was like, he sent me this long, beautiful
Arrested Development,
creator of Arrested Development. He wrote a lot of Ellen episodes, Golden Girls, and he's just truly like, I love that man to death. But he reached out to me and sent me a beautiful message online, and he was like, I noticed you're going to be in San Diego. Maybe I'll come up to San Diego, but I don't really know if I want to deal with the traffic, because he's in LA and it's like a 3-hour ride. So I get on the phone with my reps and I'm like, I don't care how much we have to spend. Like, I'm flying out a day early and I'm just going to go meet with Mitch. This is my first Hollywood meeting, but it really wasn't like we were in suits and, see, here's a big deal. Like, we were just in his house for like 8 hours. Just him and I meeting and talking about comedy, about projects he's worked on. We still talk like once a week. And knowing that I just having the mindset of being like, I'm going to do this right now. Now I know I can. So the next time, like if someone else reaches out or anybody that comes through the DMs or goes through my management, maybe a year ago I would be scared. But now I'm like, well, because I know I did it the last time, I could step out of my comfort zone and do it again. Living in risk. Yin and yang. 1 foot in order, 1 in chaos. I spend a lot more time in chaos than order. But this is the perfect balance.
Well, you know me well, so you know what I'm going to say. Show me who you're with, and I'll show you who you are.
Yeah.
8 hours.
Yeah.
8 hours in somebody's house.
Right.
Think about this for a second. How many people have been in your home besides the random
ones who I was rinsing the condoms out for?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, how many besides those people?
Right.
How many people have been in your house?
Yeah, I can't think of anybody like that I've ever had in
Okay.
my house like that.
And can you ever visualize having somebody in your house for 8 hours?
Not somebody I've never met before.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you?
That I should have left at 4. No, it tells. I mean, I left that meeting and it felt like 20 minutes had went by. I went to the Comedy Store after that, and I was sitting there just being like, I was with Mitch Hurwitz for 8 hours, and I couldn't tell you what we talked about because we talked about everything. It was like this, and I felt really good about myself after that because I developed a friendship, and also I was like, okay, maybe I do belong here. And then my focus shifted from, I mean, obviously then the writer's strike happened and the SAG strike happened, and I'm still writing, I'm still working on stuff. But that was, my focus shifted from, okay, I can do this. It's who you surround yourself with, like you said. It felt good. Thank you for reminding me about that. I needed to hear that.
Awesome. Last question.
Yes.
What advice do you have for the young person who's 17 years old, taking shit from their dad, who doesn't seem to like them very much at that point in time, or that's what they felt?
Yeah.
And going against the wishes of their family to follow a dream and then to have the kind of career that you're having at this stage of your life?
It's funny because 10 years ago, I did New Faces on Wednesday, July 26th. 10 years prior to that was when I was on Fallon. And I just went to a taping of Fallon, and I was 17 going into my senior year, and he was doing this segment, Freestyling with the Roots, where he asked the audience members questions, and then the Roots make up a song based on the answers. And I was sitting in the front row, and I was determined to get on the show. And I saw the Roots come out with their blue cards, and I knew that they were going to do this segment. So Jimmy comes up into the audience, and I just start screaming at him. And we have a back and forth. We have like a 4-minute segment. I go home, see myself on TV, on NBC, on Late Night, which is a show I've watched my whole life. Conan I grew up on, and then Fallon took over. I looked at that and went, no matter what my dad says, no matter what my mom says, when anybody in this small town says that I'm growing up in, I just saw that I can do it, right? At probably the most dangerous time in your life where you can see something like that. Like, people say all the time, like, oh man, it's so great you started when you're so young because now you're going to set yourself up for life. Yes and no, right? Like, yes, because thank God things have gone, the other way for me. Things have been going pretty well. If they weren't going well, I'd probably be hanging from a hotel balcony. And those battles that you deal with your family, with your parents, with any naysayers, with anybody who's telling you no, sort of prep you for what is going to happen to you in your career. That's why some of the best comics on the planet are broken people, because the battles that life have thrown them are so much bigger than the battles this business throws at them. And it's good. Like, envy is good. Guilt is good. Having to prove somebody wrong. Those are all, I mean, they're not feelings that are good for you. They don't feel good, but it is good for motivation. And what I would tell my 17-year-old self who wasn't getting along with his parents, or who had naysayers, is I wouldn't tell him to ignore them. I would tell him to listen to them, because it's very important you can't just listen to the good stuff. That's why I don't read comments, because if the good ones will stay in my head, then my ego won't fit into my city bike helmet. And the bad ones will make me start writing suicide notes. So there's you have to take it all in. And then also, I think what you said a lot during this podcast is the most important thing. See how you see it through your own lenses, because everything is subjective, right? There's so few objective truths in this world. There's a difference between delusional and being subjective, but seeing things through your own lens and giving yourself time to prove yourself right or wrong. Patience is the most important thing. But also, like, having a bit of angst goes a long way. I'm still waiting for this teenage angst to go away. I don't think it will at this point. I think this shit is here with me forever. And it plays a big part in your success. So if you hate yourself, just keep hating. It'll work out for you, I promise.
Troy Bond.
Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for having me. This is the best
really
conversation I've had all week.
Means a lot to me.
I now know what it's like to have a father figure.
You're the greatest.